Days are getting away from me, and the more and more we sit down here and homeschool, the more I sit down here and think. And I don't ever want to be married to a product or a curriculum or a way of life. I want to always be ever evolving, ever curious and changing, and I don't want to be so routine wrapped that I'm not open to change. I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, you're changing curriculum again. Like, that's a common thing with me, okay? I've done it pretty much since we've started homeschooling, and there are definitely some things that have stayed the same. But the one thing that has pretty much stayed consistent is our routine, our flow. We are morning people. If we don't do school and get it done in the morning, it just doesn't get done. And in our brains, it's kind of like a box that we check off. And I don't like that. You know, I've been watching Kristen over at Pearls and Oak. And I just love her channel. First of all, if you are not familiar, she is another homeschooled only child parent who does YouTube. And her content lately has just been chef's freaking kiss for me, and exactly what I needed to hear as a homeschool mom. But she discusses how, you know, we rave about who and what homeschooling is and the freedom, and what ends up happening is that we're like still trying to find where we fit in the homeschool box, so to say. Like, we then give ourselves like quote unquote rules of like, okay, are we unschoolers? Are we game schoolers? Are we like, we're trying to find like a niche and like put ourselves in this box that kind of has these like so-called like rules around it. And guilty, I've kind of laid around on the traditional side of things, where I like to have my curriculum and I like to very type A about things. And so I loved my planner because it could plan it out for me, and it laid everything out nice and pretty. I checked a box and we moved on. And now I'm realizing that we are like then essentially putting our own like rules and limiting our freedoms by like putting us in a box. And obviously I'm speaking metaphorically here, but I don't want to be just in one box. Like, if we want to utilize games one week, I don't want to have that like feeling of I'm behind just because we're taking a week to utilize games, or we're taking a week to travel and learn while we travel, or like we keep getting in our heads like, who are we behind? And so many teachers and people post on the internet and say, oh my gosh, I've had all these homeschool kids come into their high school years and they're so behind. But like, behind who? Behind what? Like, we're back here again, and it breaks my heart. And I want to be behind. I don't want her to level up with somebody, because I know maybe she'd be behind in math, but she's excelling in writing, or she's excelling in a different subject or area, or she's gonna be a freaking entrepreneur by the time she's 18. Like, what exactly, like, why does being behind scare people? Like, it's been drilled into our heads since we were young that we can't be behind our peers. Like, we have to have excellent grades, and why does one need an A+ in biology unless they're going to become a biologist? Or, you get what I'm saying? Like, I just feel the more we utilize the curriculum, the more I don't want to use it anymore. And I found myself breaking away from this calendar of like things we must get done to going with the flow. If we're diving into, say, our textbook and we go down a topic that grabs her attention, I'm going to start Googling, I'm going to start YouTubing, and maybe that takes over the day and we don't get to anything else. In the past, I would have been like, oh, we got to get to everything. We're going to be down here for like 5 hours making sure it's all done. Boom, boom, boom. Got to check the box. No, not anymore. She's 10 years old, and I feel like so much of our society pushes our kids to be independent so young, to do things so young. Look at how fast and early people read. People are teaching their kids how to read before they're even in kindergarten. And like, it used to be more about we went to kindergarten to play and not focus on academics. And don't get me wrong, I went down that path ourselves, and she was an early reader as well, and she's a great kid. She thrives. She's not, and by any means, what I would consider behind, but I don't want to be married to anything anymore. I don't want to lose the flexibility and freedoms that we're calling freedoms, but then in reality aren't really freedoms. It's just like the next box that we're placing ourselves in that have these like rules around it. So I've decided we have so much in our homeschool curriculum wise, books, resources. I'm going to drop the idea that we have to do 120 lessons in the year, and maybe they're a different type of lesson. Maybe we're going to the forest and we're super diving into something that we're learning about in science while we go for a nature walk. And the conversation and the things that we're doing is going to be considered our lesson for the day. Or, I don't want to come home and just recreate public school. Like, that is not the intent behind homeschooling. Yes, do our kids need to learn? But there are multiple ways for our kids to learn. We force this independence on our kids, and by 4th grade, curriculum is written directly to the child. And while that is enticing to fall for and be like, wow, my kid can do this all on their own, should we be depending on our kids to teach themselves in the 4th grade? I mean, when I look back at where I was in 4th grade, it definitely wasn't teaching myself. And the people at school aren't relying on the kids to teach themselves. Yes, do they have homework and assignments and projects that they are to do independently or even with a group without the teacher? They're still being taught the lesson, the material, before they're broken away for whatever reason or another. And I've realized that she can be independent. She has a lot of things that she's independent on. But like, I find this little divide where she's just now wanting to check the box. And I don't know that that's necessarily benefiting her to learning a thing by just doing it to check the box. Like, I know she doesn't necessarily need me on some of these things, but she does. Like, I'm her parent, and you know, the weight of this as an only child is a whole other topic of discussion, because we are their everything. We don't have siblings to fall back on here. We don't have the whole load to carry. And so it's easy for us to be like, wow, this curriculum's written for her. She can just sit down here and do it while I go clean the house now. But we're getting away again from the reason that we're homeschooling, is that one-on-one experience. Now, don't get me wrong, there are things that she can do on her own. I don't need to sit here while she does her spelling. I don't need to sit here while she does her handwriting. I don't need to teach that per se. But I want the freedom back. I want the flexibility back. I want the ability to drop what we're doing and not be affected by, like, quote unquote consequences. Because what consequences? That we don't finish a curriculum in a school year, which I know a lot of people don't, and they pick up wherever they left off and just move along, or some people just don't finish it and move on to the next thing. I've found that I've been the one who wants to cram it all in 1 year and make sure that it's finished. And why? Like, I don't have to. We don't have to. But anyway, my point is that we were getting this, we have these things in our head for this freedom that we talk about, but then we're not feeling very free over here. Now, being down here is just a small portion of our day. And then we do have the freedom to go explore and meet up and go on field trips and do all those things, which 100% is worth homeschooling. But I want to bring that feeling into our room down here. I don't want it to just feel like we're coming down here to open a book and do a workbook or a worksheet, or like things on a list that needs to be accomplished. I want us to have that same freedom that I feel when we're done with our school day. I don't want it to just be this like, oh, it's done. Now, am I making sense? I don't know.
Mommy, are you down yet?
I want her to still play and still engage and not feel like we are behind something or someone because she's choosing to take the time to go be a kid. I don't know how that's going to look yet. I do know that I'm starting simple by incorporating random resource books into our science instead of doing it from the curriculum. And we've been switching off every other week. We've been doing that. And we've been doing more current event type stuff and talking and having discussions about that. And we've been taking our history and trying to take a documentary or something from our history that we're learning about and watch that after the fact. Or we've been focusing more on art, and we do learn through art. And so there's just so many things that isn't in a calendar or a planner that I'm trying to embrace. And I did buy myself a written planner because I just want to be able to cross it off, not worry about whether it's going to ever be done or not done. And I'm adding things. I'm not planning things, but I'm adding it in reverse. So like whatever we decided to do that day is what we did. And we're so open and go that we just kind of do it. And then I write down what we did for the day. And sometimes if we feel like, hey, we're going to go do something else, then we have the freedom to go do something else. And then I don't feel guilty because like I didn't check the boxes in my planner. That's all planned out for me. Someone had commented that consistency is, you know, a slippery slope and that you need it to be consistent for your child. And I want to argue that point just because we are consistent. We have our routine. We do school. It's just going to look a little different. And I feel like that's that box that someone's trying to fit me into, that I'm trying to break away from. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. What does freedom look like in your homeschool? Are you married to a product? Are you married to a curriculum? Are you afraid to not check that box? I'm curious why it's leading us down this path. I think when we first started out, our brains were like, oh, freedom, freedom, freedom. And we took it and we embraced it. And then as the years go on, it seems like the less and less free we became because we think we need to be doing more. We think we need to be adding all these things for our child to complete, or they're going to be behind in 4th and 5th grade. So I'm curious. And for those of you who have older kids, like, how does that look for you? I'm dying to know. And go check out her channel as well, because her videos just spoke to me in a way that it's making me question some things. It makes me want to pursue change and be okay with change. So yeah, I'm curious your thoughts. Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in my next one.